All right, welcome everybody to another episode of We All Speak in Poems. Today, Chantal and I are chatting with Tom Day, a musician who produces music under his own name as well as Mears. How's it going, man?
Very good. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, yeah. We've been super excited about this one. I always get inboxes and stuff about us collaborating, and we've even talked about it a couple times. So I
I was
guess
thinking about that before. Yeah.
yeah, this is the Tom Day and Alaskan Tapes collab for now until
Yeah.
I can get to Australia, or you can come here or something.
Isn't that the how it goes with collabs, especially over the internet? They just kind of the ideas there, and then the execution's just always it's harder.
Yeah.
It's just I've got so many collabs that like I've agreed to that have just never transpired.
Yeah, that's the exact same as me. I'm the worst for wanting to collab and then never getting around to it.
Yeah.
And like you were
seriously.
saying, Brady, it's probably like it makes it harder when there's so much distance in between you guys, right? Like it'd be easier if you could just go to your studio or you come to his studio. Yeah.
Makes such a difference. I think that's the only successful collab I've had in the last apart from Monsoon Siren, who that's just a weird relationship where we just kind of like I send stuff, he does his part, and it's all done. But apart from that, the stuff I did with Jake Lowe last year, that was the first collab that's actually worked properly because we actually could go to each other's houses.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know Jake was Australian.
Yeah. He lives like about an hour from me. So, it just makes it so much easier. And like just ideas just come out so much more organically instead of just like that staggered like back and forth over the internet.
Yeah.
Exactly. We'd probably knock out like 10 tracks pretty easily if we were actually able to get together. We'd be able to pick and choose. And
exactly. Yeah, it'd be so much better.
Amazing.
Yeah.
For sure. But I wanted to get right into it. So you've recently put out a new album, For You.
Yep.
Is the name of it. What was the writing process of that like?
So obviously Melbourne actually, like where I live or our state, has just hit the most locked down I think lockdown city in the world. I think we took over.
Oh, wow.
I think it was can't remember. I think it was somewhere in South America. I think we notched them out as being the most lockdown city. So we're still in lockdown, but we had a little bit of a reprieve for about a month at the start of this year. And during that month, I went up to kind of we call it the high country. It's kind of like where all the national parks and it's called the Great Dividing Range. It's like a really like lush forest kind of area. And I went up there for a few days on my own with my my field recording set up and just went nuts and just recorded like all my spots I used to go to when I was younger, like the old rivers I used to swim in and the national parks I used to go walking in. So I took my field recording gear up there and just captured a whole bunch of stuff. And then getting back, we got taken back into lockdown. So I only really had those recordings as my way to escape. Like the only bit of travel I'd done for the last 12 months was those field recordings. So I used them and pretty much just listened to them and just wrote to them. So a lot of the tracks on there, especially like the more ambient ones, they use all the field recordings from that trip. So yeah, it pretty much started with that and then getting back into the studio and just translating those ideas or those field recordings into the album that you hear. And I think that's how I'm approaching my production process now, is like starting with the field recordings as opposed to just like putting them in after I've written a song as an extra bit of texture. I feel like I'm steering more towards like the field recordings themselves, because I think it like really helps you kind of snap you back to like where you were or what you might have been thinking when you were taking those field recordings, or what that area that you're capturing like does to you, and using that as my approach to the production process. So yeah,
you're so good at utilizing the field recordings and stuff, and I'm so jealous. I remember probably from you and seeing posts on Instagram and stuff, I was like, I need to get into field recording and just incorporate this into my music. But whenever I do it, I feel like it's just better when it's not there. But even in the ambient tracks on For You, where I guess you feature Mears, I guess that's a way to know it's going to be ambient or drone.
Exactly.
Which is really smart. Yeah. They're just utilized so well, and it adds to it like perfectly.
Yeah, it just acts as that it's kind of something that's just evolved, because when I first started using field recordings, they were just taken from the internet, like copyright free type stuff, and people's recordings from SoundCloud. And it used to just be that kind of extra texture. But then when I started realizing that people really appreciated those sounds being used, I thought that could become the focus of my work. So that's why last year I did invest like some cash into buying better mics and, getting some really nice microphones that have no, background noise and stuff. Because now when I go out to those areas where I do capture sounds, I can get a really high quality recording. And as I said, it's now the basis of the song when I start writing. So it's good to have that good foundation from the start. And then, I write to it. And I use birdsong a lot because it adds to that escapism, I suppose, of what I'm trying to do with the song.
For sure.
Yeah. So something I'm definitely just like homing in on and refining as I go. But it's been something that's been awesome to see develop over time. Now that I look back at when I first started using those types of recordings.
Yeah, it probably helps to have such like a high quality setup for it too, because all I have is my like Zoom. I think it's called the H3, which is pretty old actually at this point.
That's what I used to use, a Zoom H4n, just like the little handheld. Yeah, and that does the job. But if you're doing ambient stuff where you've got you haven't got much else there, you can really hear the hiss and like the floor noise. So I'm trying to get away from that and just have it really like lots of empty space and just the bird song.
Yeah, that hiss in the older Zooms it's pretty unforgiving.
Yeah,
that's something I realized a couple days ago actually.
I got some work with. It's weird. I got some work with actually my bank who I do our banking with, and did some field recording for them out at this conservation reserve that they purchased. And that was when I was using the Zoom H4n, and they actually released those field recordings onto Spotify as like a bit of a marketing tool, also to promote their conservation reserve. And now cool. When I listen back to it, I'm just like, oh God, like everyone else listens to it. Everyone else listens to it and just goes, oh, that's awesome. It's like, nice sunrise bird song and stuff like that people really like. But all I can hear is just the
No.
So that was what spurred me to like go and like, all right, if I'm going to do this, I'll at least have a better setup that you'd find like in a semi kind of professional field recording setup. So I just did a bit of research on what people use and just thought, just do it right the first time and just buy some good condenser mics.
For sure. Do you find that it actually allows you to like hike more? I feel like it's probably possible to use it almost like a camera, right?
Yeah.
Like bring it on hikes and place it down where you want to remember or something.
The only downside is it's a bit of a chunky setup, Like the Zoom was handy because you could just obviously chuck it in your backpack, but this is like
true.
It's it's two kind of XY mics, and then it's also got a big like giant windshield and stuff as well. So I'd probably get some weird looks if I'm walking around like hiking trails with this giant setup. Like, what's he doing? So I try to pick places where I can at least drive most of the way there, and then just maybe do a bit of a short walk. But that also makes it a bit harder because it limits, like, you can't get super remote away from everyone, like where you want to like remove like car noise and even like planes going over the top. You're just like, damn it, like it just ruins your shot.
That's amazing. So the studio that you're sitting in looks fantastic. I remember following what was that, 3 years ago now? Maybe you started building it.
Yeah.
I'm so jealous. Like,
it's awesome.
Honestly,
I mean, so a bit the story behind this is that so I moved away from my parents' place for university, and then kind of lived up in Melbourne, which is, as I said, about an hour north of where I am at the moment. So I moved up there. I lived up there till I was in my 30s. I think just turned 30, and then my dad passed away from cancer in about start of 2018. And so I moved back down to my folks' place after he passed away, kind of to support mum and stuff. And just like, help out around here because it's a bit of land and stuff. So it's a bit of a headache to kind of manage. So I came back down and actually converted this space here, which used to just be a really big open shed, like with no walls. It was just exposed to the elements. And Dad actually used to use this to make like kind of we call it farm art, which is this like kind of bits of sculpture that you would take cut out of sheet metal in the shape of like animals, and you would put in your garden as like just garden art. Wow. Like it was just like a hobby of his. Cool. Like he just did it as a kind of a side hustle, I guess. Like he used to just sell the pieces and stuff. And so when I came back down here, I'm like, I need somewhere to write because I didn't have any space here to bring more of my studio gear down to. And I thought, stuff it, I'm going to try my hand at a bit of renovation. So yeah, it's like it's pretty basic in terms of just like it's just like cheap plywood and stuff like that, but it's just this really cozy nook with some nice big windows, and yeah, it's
it looks cozy.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a good space to write. Like, I don't want to move, but obviously I think Mum's going to sell soon, so I'm just going to be like, oh no, I've lost it all. So I'm trying to sabotage.
So you built it all yourself, and like you've never done that type of work before?
Just, I mean, the framing was we had a friend who just came and did like the basic framing, and then all the cladding and the floorboards and the installation and stuff I just kind of did with YouTube videos. And wow. I mean, it looks good on camera, but if you look really closely, you'll see that it was done by me. Like it's just like the plywood's all like cut like that, but I'm like, I'll just cover that. I'll just cover that with a bit of timber and stuff. So yeah, it looks good.
But still, like with I feel like the average person though would be like too intimidated by the idea of a project that big. Like I don't know how to do that. That's so cool that you did that though.
Yeah, no, that's the one thing I think which is a bit of a luxury of the work that we do, where we just have like an income coming in. We have a lot of time just to also learn other things. So like I'm just trying to use the time where I might not be creative to learn a new skill. Like the other day I brought a welder and started learning how to do welding.
Oh, that's super cool.
But again, not very good at it, but I'm just like, well, a long term, it'd be good to be able to like just do basic stuff like that. Like, so it's the best way to do it. You just buy or get some secondhand gear and then just look at YouTube videos and go that way. So I've kind of always approach stuff like that, even if I don't master the skill, completely. Like at least get the basics down. And as I said, like it's the luxury of the work that we do is like we do have some time to do that stuff.
Yeah, we also have time to just dream of exactly like how we want things, right? Like I guess you being able to build your space is something I've always wanted. I've always had to conform to a room in the places that we've lived. And I've always wanted to have like a shed or something that we're able to convert into the studio, but it hasn't happened yet. Maybe one day.
Oh, surely.
Space on our
that's
land.
True. That's true.
But
I mean, it's I've always rented my whole life. Like I've only been able to do this obviously because it's at my mum's place. But it's always the limits of what you can do. Like that's why now is my next big goal is like with my partner Claire, we're just trying to get that savings together so that we can maybe get our land somewhere and build a little off-grid place. And that's the next big milestone is like some space where like it will be similar to this, but it will probably be further out in the country and set up our little retreat, or not retreat, but oasis somewhere.
That's for sure.
I'm sure you guys, that's where you'll be heading as well.
Hoping so.
Yeah, hope so.
So you said it's at your mom's place, but so like it's separate from your actual living space?
Yeah. So it's just like an old, next door is just like a tool shed. And like if I can show you guys photos, but like it literally is just an old kind of like tin shed. If you were driving past the place, you'd think it's just like an old tractor shed or something like that. But I just kind of cluttered it and put a whole bunch of insulation in here, and it's now this little cozy nook. Except in summer it gets so hot, like it's almost unworkable. That's the only downside.
Yeah, I guess you guys are going into summer right now, right?
Yeah. it gets pretty toasty down here. Which I actually saw some news the other day. We're actually, I don't know if you guys know, like there's the La Nina and the El Nino, like these weather systems that dictate kind of what the climate's going to do. And it's actually leaning towards a cooler summer, which is good for us because we live right next to a big national park, and we're just worried that it's going to, like, if it's a hot summer, we always worry that it's going to catch fire. Like we get really big wildfires, like you guys as well.
Yeah.
So as you were coming up, like making, would you describe your genre as down tempo, or how would you describe it typically?
I saw someone. I could not describe it for years, but then someone on YouTube or Instagram commented, and I really liked this definition. I'm kind of using Cinematic Electronica.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I think that probably captures it best because, I mean, down tempo, like, I don't know. I don't think I'm always writing that, but I feel like cinematic, like I've always been inspired by that kind of those elements of cinematic music. So like the big kind of strings and orchestral elements, but then obviously with an electronic approach to it. So using more, in terms of the beat structures and stuff like that. And I think that's good because it kind of, all my tracks, I do try to invoke some kind of emotion that you get from cinematic scores, but obviously I'm not writing traditional cinematic or orchestral music. So that's where the electronica comes in. So probably that.
For sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I actually like that too, cinematic electronica. So did you have any specific inspirations as you were coming up, like 8 years ago, 10 years ago now?
I think when I decided to start, so before this, I used to just write dance music. Like I was,
cool.
I was writing kind of, music you'd hear in the clubs. I almost had a contract with the Ministry of Sound in the UK to actually write an album for them. And that was just before I kind of just pulled everything off and decided to write this stuff. But back then I think I kind of discovered artists like Bonobo and like the Ninja Tune kind of label, and kind of discovered that sound of like a bit slower, bit more broken beat and like trip hop and stuff like that. And that just like, I just love that. So that was, I think that played into it, but it was also just the fact that I felt dance music just felt a bit, especially the stuff I was writing, just didn't feel like it had longevity. I think the biggest thing for me was I wanted to write music that people could listen to like, in 10, 15 years time and still like enjoy it, as opposed to like dance music's just like, oh, that track was awesome, I remember that, and then it just disappears into the ether. It just doesn't.
That makes sense.
So I think it was more trying to find some kind of sound that connected with people, but also had longevity, and also, I mean, just being able to write a sound that was unique to me instead of trying to write other people's music. Like I was just trying to write back at those days, I was writing music that was just like following what was big in the nightclubs at that time, or just like not really creating anything for myself, just like trying to mimic what others were doing. So I think that was like the big change, was like, okay, I want to write something that people could say, oh, that sounds like a track Tom Day wrote, or that sounds like a Tom Day sound, or something like that. Like it's like kind of starting your own brand, or subgenre.
And you've succeeded at that for sure. Like even now, you can just hear a track, and like it's funny because when I came up, I was doing like drum and bass music, and then I think it was specifically you. Like I probably heard you maybe on Mr. Suicide Sheep or something, and it introduced me to like the atmospheric side of slower music. I guess down tempo is probably the best way to describe it. But so it's really cool. I mean, even seeing that you're still doing it and stuff, because a lot of the people that I looked up to coming up, 8-7 years ago, they don't seem to really be doing it much anymore. I've noticed that as well. It's a bit of a gauntlet. All those artists that I kind of not worked with, but like were kind of
kind of writing music at the same time earlier on. I'm pretty sure they're not really writing anymore. And it is. It's just like this. It's weird because I love their stuff, and you think that they'll just continue on, but obviously music is pretty cutthroat. Like it's just, it's tough. Like we're pretty both fortunate that we can draw an income off our music, because it just seems like most people just well, not most people, but it's very lucky that we're in this position. Because I think there's been a lot of talented people who it just didn't work out, and it's a shame.
Yeah. Going back a little bit farther or further, what music did you listen when you were growing up?
So right early on, I still remember I remember getting the Lion King soundtrack for my
nice
7th or 8th birthday, and I remember just sitting at my stereo or my parents' stereo with headphones, just listening to that all the time. I mean, there was like listening to movie scores, but there was also just like listening to lots of early electronica, so like Fatboy Slim and Daft Punk, and
cool.
And then then I went through this like awkward like teenage kind of like listening to like really hard dance music, like almost rave music. But I didn't really go to raves. I was just like listening to it in school and just being like, this is awesome. I went through a bit of a punk rock music kind of phase again in my teenage years. I think I was really trying to find my identity back then, and then when I got into university, I think, and moving up to the city and going to a lot of the nightclubs, I got into like like trance and progressive house. There was always, I think, the one thing I think back to is I was always seeking out music that had emotion. I think that's why trance and progressive house always grabbed me, because it was always like they would dance music, but they also had some nice, like really nice epic kind of chord progressions and stuff like that. So I think I've always just followed music that had some form of emotion like woven into it. But in terms of genres and styles of music, I think it's very much kind of moved around. I haven't really just followed one sound altogether. It's kind of evolved now. Now it's lots of stuff. Like it's obviously there's just so much good,
a mix of everything.
There's so much good music. It's just I think in terms of electronic music, like EDM, like the big dance music, like that I've lost interest in that. I think it's just it's become too high. It's almost like they've just really homed in on like the dopamine kind of hits, the drops and like it's so hectic, and I'm just like my brain explodes listening to it, and it's just too much sound. Like it's too I can't keep up with it. So I've kind of moved away from that stuff and sticking to like music that is a bit slower, a bit less layers, just a bit more stripped back, and keep it simple.
For sure. Awesome. Yeah, I think we feel that.
Yeah.
Even going through high school, like when we were in high school, that was when Skrillex was coming up and stuff, and the bro stuff, if you want to call it that.
Insane.
So, I guess that stuff died. Well, it didn't die, but
for us,
for us, it died a long time ago.
But that's the thing, isn't it? Again, it's just that kind of like, I mean, I look back at those artists, and you just think they were probably making absolute bank like at that time, but I just wonder like what they're doing now. Like I know obviously big bro step artists like Skrillex and stuff like that's he's doing very well, but like I don't know, it's just
maybe they started another project.
An alias.
Maybe
even Skrillex, he kind of, I think from my knowledge, he kind of got away from that sort of sound. Now he's more into pop, and like he's working with Justin Bieber and stuff, right? And
that's right, and Diplo and stuff.
And Diplo, yeah.
I mean, amazing producer. I mean, it's just, I guess that's just how stuff evolves.
For sure.
As artists.
So going back as well to your first like publicly available track, which was Lost and Found.
Oh God,
it is
so
honestly
good.
Like that was my favorite song. I think I found it through Mr. Suicide Sheep, and the video that it was paired with, was that a video that you made, or was that from a short film?
No, that was so I still remember kind of when I wrote that was again, like you said, one of the first ones I wrote when I first started writing that kind of music. I think it was when my first sample pack or sampler library that I purchased. It was like East West Coast samples or something. I can't remember the name. Anyway, it was the first time I ever had an orchestra. Like it was like the first orchestra sampler. So I think that's when I like, oh my God, this is insane what you can do now. And I found I think that video clip was a music video by an Australian band called, I think it's the Aldries. The Aldries. And so I found that on YouTube and thought, like I love that animation. So yeah, I wrote to it. Like I just opened that up in one screen and just opened up Ableton and just like wrote to it.
Yeah, because the pair of like the video to the song, like it's so perfect. I remember I would just watch it and listen to it at the same time, and I would get like into this trance, and I could like feel the emotion, and it was
yeah.
So
I mean, it was again, that was another way I used to come up with ideas for new songs is writing to image and video, which I should start doing a bit more. I've just stopped doing that, but it was just such a good way to come up with new ideas. And like you said, like I feel like it was following that little girl's journey, like as she kind of loses her little sidekick and they find each other at the end. But yeah, now like it's funny because I listened back to that, I'm like it's one of those things like, do I revisit it because now I've got better skills? But then because I listen to it and go, oh God, like what's that doing there? And the bass line, blah, blah, blah. Like, but I've got to kind of let go of that, I think.
It's super nostalgic to us. Like we revisited the other day when we were getting ready for this, and it was like, oh my God, like we're back, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's
like I've listened to the song lots on Spotify and stuff, but then actually watching the video again, I was just like, wow, yeah, it's good.
Awesome.
So that's like the first sort of public one, at least on Spotify. I know you have like that Bon Iver mix on SoundCloud, but was there tracks before that for Tom Day?
There were. So yeah, there was I went through a bit of so when I was releasing dance music, that was also under Tom Day. So I kind of went through this like, oh no, how do I separate that? Or, I actually contacted like old record labels that had released my music. I'm like, is there any chance you could just like delete those songs? And they're like,
no,
no, you signed a contract, not happening. And I'm just like, yeah, fair enough. So what I ended up doing is actually, I was able to kind of separate the old music, like there's only like 2 or 3 songs, but like I was able to remove that from the Tom Day on Spotify from another Tom Day. So it's kind of been split. So there are some older dance songs out there, but there were a few like tracks that I used to put up on SoundCloud that never got a Spotify release, and that was me trying to find that new sound. And that was just like, I don't even know if they still exist on the internet, but pretty much Lost and Found was probably the first one I was happy to put out there. And the rest before that were just these like kind of tests, I suppose, like, experiments.
For sure. Yeah. The quality is definitely there. Like, because when I was going through it, I was like, how is he so good right off the start? What is going on? But I guess this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, it was definitely, there was a few years of development there. But yeah, I mean, I think every time I write a new song, I'm like, this is my best work. This is my best work. This, like, I just hope that constantly evolves. Yeah. But then people contact me like on, listening to like Going Home, for example, like that. I get so many comments like on Instagram and stuff like that saying, that and who we want to be, like those 2 songs that people are like, write more like that. And I'm just like, I listen back to them. I'm like, I like them. I think they're like, I'm proud of that work, but I'm like, but I like this one, like my newer one. And they're like, no, write this one, more of this one. It's just like, I guess any producer does it. Just listens back to older work and just like biggest critic of your own stuff.
And is that hard to hear comments like that? Like when you're releasing new things and you are trying to evolve your sound, and then people are like, no, like I like your old stuff. Like, does that put you in kind of a box where you're like, oh, like should I go back to please the listeners, or should I continue what I want to do? Or
no, I there's it's one of those brief moments of like, maybe I should. And then I'm like, no. Like, because every track I write is like representative of where I was at that time.
Yeah.
So it's like telling someone to go back and be someone
That's
else,
true.
like be someone you were, it's like, and that's the thing with my music. Like, it's always been a bit of a, almost like a diary entry, instead of like an audio diary. Like, it's like, you can't just go back and reinvent like or replicate the way you were back like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So like when I wrote Who We Want to Be, which is like obviously one of the most successful tracks I've done, I was like in a real kind of like introspective, what do I want to do with my life headspace. I was in the middle of doing my PhD, which by the way I never finished, but I was in that moment. And I was having a bit of a like, what do I do? Like, do I want to keep going down this pathway of science, or do I want to do music? So obviously that's a track like that comes out because you're just like, super conflicted with what path to take. And now like I've decided music is what I want to do. I can't just go back and write Who We Want to Be Part 2. Like,
that makes sense.
Because I've kind of chosen the path.
Yeah. So you said you went to school for science?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I studied chemistry at uni, and then I went into drug design for my PhD. So I was doing medicinal chemistry, which is the chemistry of medicine, so creating new drugs. And that was what I was doing all during that 2012 period of writing. It was science. Like, my day job was working in a lab.
Wow.
And then I'd come home and do music at after work. Wow. So it was like it's like I chose two really like
very opposites.
but also like not secure. Like, I was like I never did something that was like, science is like in Australia it's just like being defunded. So it's like,
I didn't know that.
You're not that's a pretty tough field to kind of get a career into. And then music, it's like obviously we know the gauntlet and how hard that is. I'm like, I chose poorly. Like, I didn't choose anything safe. I think we've spoken before as well, Brady. We're just like, all our eggs are in this music basket now. It's just like, because I'm too far away from science now to go into that field. So I'm just like, hope it all pans out.
Yeah, it almost has to work, because if it doesn't, it's like we are screwed.
Like, what are you going to do next?
Yeah, exactly.
That's any job. I'm trying to like rectify that. I'm like, that's any job. Like, anything can happen with any job. You're not secure anymore. Like, we don't live in those days.
For sure. And and with music, the monthly income that comes in fluctuates so heavily. But that's just the life of a musician. I think it's what we signed up for. So
exactly. I think the best you can do is just try, like, and that's what I'm focusing on, is just try foster a nice organic growth of your audience and followers and stuff like that. And hopefully that limits the fluctuations, like going like this. Like, you just want it to be a nice kind of steady, hopefully increase. But I mean, I'm sure you're the same. But like, you don't want to look at like the Spotify numbers, and you don't want to look at your insight data too much, because I feel like sometimes it can dictate your mood. You're just like, it's on the decline. Life's
100%. Yeah, I'm one of those people though that can't help it. Like, I'm so glued to the data and
you just love the numbers.
And the numbers. But it's a double-edged sword, right? Because sometimes it's super great and you're over the moon, and then the other time it's, I got taken off this and that, and my numbers are depleting. We're never going to be able to pay our rent.
It's all over. Sell everything.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned it before though, and I want to talk a little bit about Who We Want to Be, just to get a little bit nostalgic and stuff. So now it has 50 million streams on Mr. Suicide Sheep and millions everywhere else. Do you remember it sort of blowing up back then? Was that the first one that was sort of blowing up for you?
It was Going Home. That was the first one.
Going Home, right?
Yeah. So I actually had never heard of I didn't really know. Like, I didn't know YouTube was like such a big thing. Like, I never really got into it early on. I didn't know what YouTubers were, and I didn't know there was like people doing that as a job. So I had no idea about music blogs and stuff like that, like on YouTube. And then I remember getting an email from someone I worked with at university, and he's like, "Oh, I just saw your song on Mr. Suicide Ship." I'm like, "What's that? What does that mean? Like, what? Who? Suicide? What?" And then I saw him at work, and he's just like, "No, it's this YouTuber who releases music and promotes music." And then I was just like, "Oh my god, this is insane!" Because obviously with that comes like, back then when I was on Facebook, more page follows and stuff like that. I'm like, what's happening? Like, totally new to that whole world until that happened. And then I think for each week it was like going home, then Who We Want to Be, and then maybe Echoes, and he just did a few of my stuff and Reflections. And it just kind of started there. And I was just like, I was learning at the same time about this whole world of YouTubing, blogs and stuff like that. And that's really the turning point, I suppose, for me was, I guess if that hadn't happened, like, I don't know if I would be where I am like today. I think, I think that was the turning point for my music career, at least. And that was like going back before that, when I wrote those songs, like I didn't think that they were going to go anywhere. Like I just wrote, I was just writing the music that I love to write. And that was when I was really getting into kind of field recordings and starting to think about, really lightly, like thinking about like what field recordings to use in the song. And it must have just struck a chord with people. I think people realized that like, that this is a sound they wanted to hear more of. And went from there.
I'm surprised that they didn't like reach out to you
I was about to say,
ask if they like, I don't know. I feel like you always hear that people submit their music to them and then, they hope that it gets on because they know that it's a turning point.
Yeah. So you assume everybody gives permission.
Yeah. But for you, like, that's so cool that like you didn't even know what was happening.
I know.
And then it changed your whole career.
Absolutely like super lucky that happened. And I don't know how it happened. Like, I don't know how he found my music, but because I didn't really have much presence then. Like I wasn't touring, or like I wasn't playing out, or I don't know. I mean, Melbourne has a really good music scene, and like I think Melbourne was getting on the radar of the rest of the world, that there's like a lot of good artists or a lot of good music coming out of Melbourne City. So this right place, right time type thing. And so no submission. Like I kind of stopped sending my music to blogs and stuff, because I'm just like, I don't know. Going back, like I've said in like other interviews and stuff, like the advantage I had was that music wasn't my back then. It wasn't my income. Like, so I wasn't like, I've got to make it. So I didn't care about if my music was being shared or not, because I was just writing it for my own enjoyment, and it was something I did to relax. So my rent and all my bills and stuff were paid for when I was working at the university, and so I didn't have to like put all my focus into like, this has to make, because I've got bills to pay. And I think that's been, looking back, that's probably something that helped me a lot, is because that also allowed me to not like just write music that I liked, as opposed to writing music that I thought made money.
Or like just having that pressure on you.
And it just develop the sound as I go, and not think about like, is this going to make it on the through sales and Bandcamp and stuff like that. So it's just like I look back now, I'm like, things just all aligned like very fortunately for me, and like that's why it's resulted in where I am, like in terms of being able to do this full time. So
I think that's another similarity that we have, although we're at different stages of life. Like when I sort of was starting and building my foundation of music production and stuff, I was in high school, so I didn't have to worry about the money. So I was able to just do whatever I wanted. And a lot of people who sort of maybe start a little bit late or pursue it late, I guess like you did, but it's kind of the same thing. You have to worry about, if it's going to make money, especially if you put all your eggs in one basket kind of thing.
Yeah. Like it's like, I mean, I don't know. Did you study music, or what did you do out of high school?
So originally I went for accounting, but I only lasted,
One
I
semester.
think, maybe even half a semester, maybe
No,
one
it was
semester.
one semester because it was you missed your last exam and then you were like, oh, that's the sign that I'm just gonna not go.
Yeah.
What?
That's why you're obsessed with your Spotify data.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I'm a math-oriented brain.
Yeah.
And then I did end up going for a year for music production.
Okay. I think that's, I mean, I do, those people who go and like, when they're in their teenage years and they like, I'm going to do music production, and then they go, all right, I'll go and study that. And like, it's just like, I feel like there's a lot of like people who do that and it just doesn't work out. Like, I'm sure there's a lot that it does transpire into a career, but like, it's just like, I feel a little bit, not guilty, but like, it's like people go and study this thing and it's just not a guaranteed outcome that they're going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I don't think it's only music.
Yeah,
that's
I
true,
think a
too.
lot of people go to school in general for like university degrees and college diplomas, and then they don't end up going into that field. Like
Science,
it's kind of
yeah.
just, I did this, but I think it's pretty common.
I only just finished paying my student like loans, like debt this year.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Yeah.
For something that I never use. But, you know, like I have to obviously try to rationalize it. And as I said to you before, like it allowed me to, like, who knows? I without doing that, maybe I wouldn't have written the music that I wrote.
Exactly.
So I don't.
And it was
Absolutely.
a good learning experience, probably, like just being in that mindset of like having deadlines and
Yeah.
organization and
Yeah, I would.
Yeah,
I
being
don't think I would
professional.
change anything. Like I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Maybe I would have submitted my thesis because I got to the end of my PhD. Like I literally had had
wow.
everything there. Like had all the data, all the like I could have finished, and I'm like just not going to do that. I think it was because like I hadn't worked in the lab for quite a while, and the wheels had fallen off like how to do it properly, and I'm just like I've got to take this kind of the shackles off my around me because I'm just like it really is. It was just like this big burden sitting on my shoulders. I'm just like I know I'm not going to do it, but yeah, I wish I kind of just got it done earlier on and just squared it away.
I mean, maybe one day you'll come back and you'll be like, you know what, I'm ready, and then you'll just finish it just to finish it.
Yeah. And then they'll be like, we're not going to accept this, and then I'll be like, can I just have like a little certificate, just like a encouragement award, maybe
Just like a half one.
Yeah,
You tried.
yeah, you tried.
Yeah, you tried.
Yeah.
I guess to get your PhD, though, you have to get your master's first, right? Your bachelor's, then your master's.
But over here, you can do your honors, so bachelor's, honors, and then you can skip masters and go straight into a PhD program. So I could have, but I could have written a smaller thesis and just submitted it as a master's. But I just by that point I was just like, I'd already moved on. Like I was, my path had changed. So I'm just like, oh well, like it you know, I got close and I still got all the learning experience from that and had a really good 10 years like during that period of my life. And as I said, I think it did open lots of doors with how I wrote music and where I was living at the time. Like I was right in the heart of like Melbourne's music scene, and it just was like a really good experience to learn and network and stuff up there. So yeah, it's all good.
For sure. Yeah. And it really is quite the accomplishment.
Yeah.
Seriously. But so I actually want to ask, so looking at your discography, there's not so much of a gap, but there seems to be definitely a trend of less music between like 2013 and 2018.
Yeah.
And that might just be me. And then at like during 2018, I think then you put out the Monsoon Siren EP, and then you started putting out albums again. So what was going on in that time?
That was so I actually got a job with my university. So I was finishing as I was finishing my PhD, I started getting some casual work doing. It was actually like marketing and like recruitment for the university. Because what I used to do is because I was doing drug development, I actually developed workshops for high school students to learn about how drugs are made.
Oh, wow.
And so schools actually started getting me to go out there and talk about drug design and like to all the chemistry students, like, you know, how chemistry can be used to make medicines. And that kind of turned into a job offer for about 3 years, full time, doing recruitment and workshops. And I think that was really like, that was taking up a lot of my time. And, you know, while I really enjoyed it and it was great to kind of be in an education role and stuff like that, I kind of got to an end of that path and thought, I can't keep doing this. Like, it's getting really repetitive and it's not exactly what I wanted to do. And music at the same time was like slowly starting to get a bit more of an organic following. So I think during that period, it was just being really occupied with just a 9 to 5, like quite stressful at times job. And I think I was just a bit lost. Creativity wasn't really there. And then it's all kind of picked up again because like, I'm like, no, I'm going to do life differently. I'm not going to just like not work a job for the sake of a job. It's like I've been able to be very lucky in that I could hang up my shoes of that job and just take a pay cut and just do music. So yeah, it's just like, I think that's what it is. Like, and I think back to when I was writing like the 2012 album, like, or not the album, that was just a compilation of all the songs I've written over the last few years. But it was like, I feel like I'm at my most creative when I am like not just consumed by just if I compare that to the 9 to 5 job that I was doing where I wasn't really enjoying it, I was quite stressed, very little output. Whereas like back in the science days when I was in the lab and it was a bit more of an informal job, that was when I was more creative. And now that I'm not, like, I can kind of do other stuff, like I said, like, you know, learn new skills and stuff, I'm also more creative that way. So like I've kind of found that that's where I need to be. Like I can't just be like working for the sake of working, and you know, it just it just zaps I've got nothing to write about. It's like
for sure.
9 to 5 song, what like
is it for sure?
Yeah,
for sure.
So yeah, I think that's probably what it is. Like it's just that I was just kind of stressed at work and not really having much output.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, we don't want to keep you too much longer, but I do want to touch a little bit on Mirrors, your second alias. When did it start, and like what kind of inspired you to start that?
So, I mean, it was probably your music, Brady. Like, I think, like,
oh, cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've always loved like kind of drone and ambient, like super stripped back stuff. But I thought it wouldn't really fit under my name. And I just like when those days where I couldn't write a Tom Day song, I was always like just playing around with any of these like synths and whatnot around me, and just thought I want to write something that's like, that I don't care if it makes any income or anything. Like it's just purely like as a way, an outlet for that kind of stuff that I love listening to and love trying to write myself. So yeah, I think that was around 2018 that I decided that I'd start that. I've got no expectations for that project. It's just purely like those days where I just want to kind of flush out my brain with some nice like ambient kind of soundscapes, or, you know, take that field recording that I might have recorded the day before and do some post editing on it and then write to that. So yeah, just purely like a fan of drone music and ambient music and wanting to try to do that myself. It's kind of, apart from doing that collaboration with myself for the For You album, I haven't really put much time in it. But it's probably something I'm going to get stuck back into. I find it's more of a winter project for me. So when it gets hot and summery, I'm not like, for some reason, it just doesn't work for me. I feel like my music writing is seasonal.
I feel that too. I think a lot of people do too.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah, Mirrors is so sick too, and even just the name, how you actually mirrored it on SoundCloud and stuff with the font and stuff. It's so cool.
No one can search for it. It's it's like, that's why it's just, if I had intentions for that project, I would make it better. Like the metadata would be better, but that's just like, you know, if you find it, you find it. And like, I just love that kind of people just come across it like, oh, like, I didn't know you did this as well. I'm like, oh yeah, that's just, it's just like an organic find, you know. They've like gone through my discography, and then because I've got those tracks in there as well, and they're like, oh, what's this? And then they're like, oh, you know, I've always been a big fan of like drone and ambient, so this is perfect. So yeah, obviously it's not very friendly for searching, and I've had friends like, can you just call it mirrors, like the correct way up? I'm like, too late. It's
That's
already
your
out there.
only other side project, right? Like you don't have any other.
Nah.
Do you have any other plans to kind of start another side project, or not really?
Nah, not at this stage. I think the focus on the future is just more collaborations, I suppose.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, I really want to try to get them up. Actually, Nathan, Monsoon Siren, and I have got 2 new singles in the pipeline at the moment. So he has just finished writing 2, I think, solo albums under a new alias that he's doing. But he had a bit of time, so he just emailed me and goes, if you've got any ideas, shoot them over. And again, like with him, it's just like, here's a song I wrote, and then 24 hours, oh, here's the words for it. And they're just beautiful. And like, it's just been the best collaboration, just because I feel like we just complement each other's sounds really well. So,
that's amazing.
Yeah, so that's kind of my focus at the moment. We're just trying to get them finished off. And then, yeah, hopefully that takes me out of lockdown. I think we're finishing up in about maybe 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay.
And then I'll be able to get out again. And I think that will be a chance to start maybe a new album, or I don't know. I'm not sure. How do you find, like, just a side question with albums, like, do you find, this is like the really sad reality of Spotify, but like, do you find albums are a bit tough to release now because you can only really just like push one song out of an album, and you feel like you're not giving the other tracks space to have their time in this?
I've found, with Spotify, it's completely, they definitely favor singles, obviously. Like, you have a chance to actually push each and every track of the album and stuff. With that being said, though, I find that Apple Music and other streaming services really favor albums. They'll push the whole thing, you know? But I guess that's where, like, have you heard of the term waterfall singles yet?
Oh, no.
So it's when you put out one track, and then the next single, you'll put it out together as 2 tracks. And then the next single will be 3 tracks, like kind of like an EP, but it's just all the singles together so that they're clumped in the same sort of playlist on Spotify.
Yeah.
So that when people check out your new track, they'll check out the other ones. That's one way to kind of get around it. Even for me, actually, like, the next album, technically, I'm going to just put out 10 singles, and then it'll just be compiled at the end of the year. You know.
So how do you mean, like, you'll put out a single? How does that eventuate into an album, or will it just be 10 singles, like, but it won't be an album, or you will put the album out at the end that's all of those songs?
Exactly.
Yeah,
so it'll all just be compiled at the end, but as you're going through it, like, each month, let's say I put it out each month. So month 1 will be 1 track, and then month 2 will be 2 tracks together.
Yeah.
And then 8 months will be 8 tracks, and then, you know, just go all the way to the last one, and then it'll be like, oh, by the way, this was an album, you know.
Yeah, got ya.
It's something I really struggle with, though.
Yeah, it's sad. It's kind of, no, it's a sad part of the process, because you would like to be able to just release something all at once, and it's going to be fed into the machine, and people are going to appreciate the whole thing as and people do, obviously. Like, the people who like your music will go through the whole thing. Yes. But at the same time, it's like you just look at the insight data, and you just know that one track's just being pushed all in the random algorithm playlists.
Yeah, I guess it's technically the way that it's always been done, though, right? With the bigger artists and stuff, like 1 or 2 tracks or 3 tracks will be pushed to radio, and then if you want to hear the other ones, you just have to get the record or get the CD. But I feel like now, with, you know, everything being streamed and streamlined, it should be easier to be able to push every track. I feel like artists are definitely more intentional with exactly what tracks they want as well. Like, there's no filler tracks anymore, I feel like, unless I'm wrong about that.
No, I agree. I think I think also for me, like, my focus, as I said earlier, is like trying to build the followers more than anything, because I feel like that just really helps when you do release stuff, even with albums. Like, it kind of filters off into their new Music Weekly and those kind of algorithmic playlists. I think that's, from what I understand, is a really, like, where you should be putting a lot of your effort is trying to build that organic following.
Absolutely. And I found it was actually easier a couple of years ago. Lately, it's been more and more tough. I don't know if you find that too. The followers seem to be slowing down. I don't know, maybe ambient music is kind of, or atmospheric music is kind of dropping off a bit.
I feel like it's just the way it's promoted as well, though. Like, it's promoted for sleep and for studying, so people aren't on their phone looking at who they're listening to.
That's true.
They're in a different state of mind when they're listening to it and not focusing on who.
I'm sure your music kind of gets promoted to like yoga and stuff, right? A lot.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It often finds it's on those playlists. I think for the most part, though, like, in terms of the playlist feature, it hasn't had a huge like uptake. I haven't been on many of the big playlists, or just a few random ones like coding and yoga and like just obviously like relaxation stuff. But looking at the insight data, a lot of it's from, like I said, a big chunk of the percentage of plays is from just either users' private playlists or like the algorithm playlists.
Yeah.
So not editorial or, any of those other ones.
Yeah. I'm super jealous of artists like you, because for me, a big chunk is editorial, and those can go away at any point. If you're,
it's just amazing seeing someone's like just go like this, and then just you're off the playlist. It's just like it's so cutthroat. It's just like it is. Like, we are beholden to the algorithm gods, and
exactly,
and editorial. Like, someone's sitting there going, you were making money now, and now you're not.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just crazy, but anyway.
To anybody listening, if you're an upcoming producer or whatever, focus on organic growth rather than hoping you get on a whatever editorial playlist, because it's obviously it's great to get a nice paycheck, to further your stuff, but longevity requires organic growth for sure.
Yeah, that's the focus. Yeah.
I'm really excited to hear that you're working with Monsoon Siren again, because Songs for the Living is a masterpiece in my mind. Like, the whole thing is so perfect. I wanted to ask, like, how did you guys meet? Was it sort of online or?
Yeah, we've never met. We haven't even Skyped.
Oh, wow. Really?
No, it's just after Going Home came out on Mr. Suicide Sheep, I think he messaged me on SoundCloud and showed me his work, and we wrote, I think it was Conversations, like within a couple of days. Like, I was just blown away. Like, I wrote the backing track or the instrumental for Conversations, and then I sent it over to him, and again, 24, 48 hours, song. It was just done. It was just like, and ever since, like, it's just been email, like, here's the song I wrote, or here's an idea. Yep, here's the vocals. We've never like done anything more than that. And it's just been this really, so yeah, I mean, the fact we haven't even Skype is just like, it literally is just text on an email, and that's our relationship.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, if you guys ever get together and get to work together in person, I wonder, like,
if it'll be worse.
No, I know. Even better.
No, like, it might all just collapse. Like, we might end up having a fight or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure. Like, like, if someone, when you cut, like, two artists come together and write music like that, that they're coming from, they have similar philosophies and stuff like that. So
for sure.
I think we'll be fine. But yeah, it's just been great to have this totally almost anonymous relationship and just write. It's all just about music. Like, it's just about this thing. And I'd like to think that, like, our music has helped his career. Like, he's obviously going from strength to strength. But it's been awesome. I think we have helped each other a lot in our careers.
Yeah, it